Hello, sisters, and welcome to our 50th episode of Go Solo Live. This is Jennifer Buchholz with Transform Via Travel. It's time to sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the stories that Sunni shares as she reflects back on her solo travels and the book she wrote about them, Mirror, Mirror.
Welcome to Go Solo Live.
Don't you mean Go Solo Live? Have you ever been asked, why on earth would you travel alone? Go Solo Live not only answers that question, but celebrates life as a midlife solo traveler. This is a safe place for women to come together to reminisce about their travels, encourage others to travel, and to dig into the real lessons learned from these journeys. Now join Jennifer Buchholz with Transform Via Travel as she and her guests share stories of the solo travelers of midlife women.
Joining me today is Sunni Boehme, who has enough tales of solo travel to have written more than one book about it. And the tales are so extraordinary and captivating. Honestly, her book, Mirror, Mirror, is not the kind of book that I love to pick up. And when I did, I couldn't put it down. I've had the chance to meet Sunni in person, and now we get to share her stories with you at Go Solo Live. Welcome, Sunni.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So one of the things that I like to do is take people back into their story to the backstory before they hit the road and do their travel. I'd love for you to share a bit about where you were at in your life before you started embarking on the travel that led to the book Mirror, Mirror.
Oh, okay. Can do. And in fact, the first chapter in that book is about, I thought my life was already perfect. I had just completed my master's in psychology. I had become a director with Mary Kay Cosmetics. I had my pink car. I had 500 people in 3 different states. I was loving everything about my life, and I was doing competitive ballroom dancing. So that everything you see on Dancing with the Stars, I used to do when I weighed 120 pounds and I was 29 years old or 27 or 28. And so my life, I remember thinking my life couldn't get any better. I was married to a wonderful man. We had a very, very emotionally beneficial and completely supportive. We both said, anything you want to do, go do it. I got your back. And so we had 10 years of that. So everything about my life was good. And then all of a sudden, I had a terrible car accident that nearly killed me. I had an out-of-body experience that told me that there was so much more that I was supposed to be doing in the world, that what I was doing had prepared me for what I was supposed to do, but that it was still limiting. It was still limiting the way that I was supposed to be working with people. My true calling was to help people find their soul's purpose, find the joy in their heart and be living it. And that even though everything in my life looked good, there was more. And I was actually given the choice whether I was going to leave the planet or come back in. And I said, well, it looks like it's going to hurt if I go back into that body, because a drunk had broadsided me and on a terribly icy night, and then my car went head on into the corner of a brick building. So the jaws of life had to pull me out of my car, and it was totaled, my poor pink car. But again, in the grand cosmic toboggan ride, it was like it had to be something that powerful, that intense, to get me to shift gears and open my box and get out and look at something else. Because when I came to, because I was completely unconscious for a very long time, and when I came to, it was like, oh, I could have been dead and I've never been to Europe. Like, what? Where did that come from? Because even though I was 30 years old, I'd never been on a city bus in my life. I'd never been on a train in my life. I'd only been on a plane once in my life, and I was traveling with a whole bunch of Mary Kay people. So I was just one of the sheep, you know. So I had never done anything adventurous. I had done everything that I was told to do and had never even taken a vacation, except one time there was a week where we went up north and stayed at a cabin. That was the only vacation I'd ever had in my adult life.
So this was really an earth-shattering moment for you, and in some ways, a body-shattering moment.
Yes.
And it seems to have awakened part of your spirit. And one of the things that's important, and I got you're an amazing storyteller. The book was so engaging. And one of the things that I got from that, though, is when we look at our story now and reflect back on it, you can see how things completely align. This was supposed to happen. I was supposed to be awakened. But how were you really feeling in the moment?
In the moment, even though the accident was really bad and there were things that were happening to my body and I was really scared, I also totally felt that I was being totally and completely guided. Because also in that first chapter in the book, I was told that I had some major back injuries, that I should not move in any way, that they were unable to put me in a hospital room yet. And so they were going to put me on this gurney in the hallway until they could get a hospital room, but that I cannot move. Absolutely not. They had the surgeon was going to come and look at my back and tell me what was going to happen. And so I was already a Reiki master. And I thought, well, I can give my power away to the doctors, or until the doctors show up, I can see what this Reiki stuff does, And so I just laid there for hours. I don't know if it was 3 hours. I don't know I know the accident happened at 2:00 in the morning and that it was daylight by the time the surgeon finally came to the table and said, here's your x-rays and this is what we have to do. And there are 3 major areas that we're going to have to go in and repair. And during the night, I had just been saying, just completely infusing my body and calling in the light and saying, I'm having a miraculous healing. I'm having a miraculous healing. My back totally supports me. I am totally whole. And so, I'm looking at the x-rays and what he's showing me. And then I say, take some more x-rays. I don't believe those. And he went, well, we're only taken a few hours ago. I said, take more x-rays. I'm not going into the operating room until you take more x-rays. They took more x-rays and they didn't have to operate.
Well, so much of who you are and what my version of your journey has been about is about manifesting.
Yes.
And we can say manifesting abundance, but truly manifesting your desires.
Yes.
It didn't always appear to be about abundance. And so you're on your back, you're in the hospital. This is trauma at its finest, and you're able to tune in to yourself and then a higher power and start to manifest. But you grew up in kind of, small town, almost local, yokel type of situations.
Country.
Right?
Catholic, fearful, farmers.
Okay.
That's how I grew up. You work until you die and maybe you got enough money left to bury you. That's how I grew up.
And so how did this I'm not going to say new, it wasn't new, but it certainly wasn't popular like it is now. How did that come to you?
Well, when I was 23, I don't know, I found a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And I read that book, and everything that was wrong with my life, I'd see how if you change your mind and stop talking about ain't it awful and oh my God, this happened and that happened. And I mean, there had been, before I met my husband, there had been I was just on survival. It was kind of the way I was trained, and life wasn't fun and joyous and easy. Mary Kay showed me that it could be better. Oh, I know where I got that book. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Joseph Murphy was the speaker at the Mary Kay convention when I had joined. And I joined, and within a month, I went to the convention, heard him, and his book was in my starter kit in Mary Kay. And I read that, and it showed me a whole different way of looking at things and thinking things. And then I started reading more books by him. He was a prolific writer. Then I wrote Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill and Psycho-Cybernetics. And it was like and then I started teaching. The way that I got to be a pink car driver was I started teaching the people in my unit, the girls in my unit, how to use these principles to have more self-confidence, more belief that life can get better and life doesn't have to just be struggle. And this just had me on fire, and I could see all the people that I was bringing in were getting really powerful and strong and confident much quicker than in other units. And so I just kept reading these kinds of books and kept changing the way that I talked, the way that I looked at things, and I stopped ever repeating, ain't it awful? This bad thing happened to me. Oh, and then this happened. And oh my God, that's awful. Because so many people keep harping and instant replaying, oh my God, and my father did this, and my mother did this, and my boyfriend did this. And they keep creating it and creating it and creating it. So the first thing I had to do was stop myself from ever repeating anything I don't ever want to experience again.
That's really powerful. So I want us to all take a moment on that. The comment was, I'm going to stop repeating anything that I don't want to happen again.
Yes.
Again, because those are the stories. And, for some people, honestly, even when you think about your travel stories, I'm going to share this moment. I think we all have multiple versions of the same story.
Yes.
And the moment that we experience it in the moment can be framed in a positive or negative manner. And then you can give it a little bit more time, and that can get framed again differently. And with more time and with more perspective and more information, you can continue to frame that differently. So once again, I'll say, when we look at a situation that happened years and years ago, we can now put it in perspective of why that happened and how it's reflected on us now.
Yes.
The same thing happens when we travel. And I really encourage people to try not to stay connected on social media all the time to highlight some of the crazy stuff that might be happening, because they're processing it in the moment and publishing it out. Where if they took a little time and kept that story and then reflected on it, and reflected on what that might mean to their whole trip, it might not be this big, crazy drama. I was just sharing with someone once again when I went to New Zealand, and it was my first big international solo trip, and I get to my hotel after I forgot to make arrangements to get from the airport to the hotel. Okay, well, whoops. I get to the hotel, they're still closed following an earthquake. Well, that could have been huge, major drama, but I didn't let it. And I came up with a new plan. And then I got to go start my next tour, and somehow or another, my booking wasn't right. Oh, that could have been terrible, but it wasn't. And then, there was just this series of things that when you look at them, had I acted in one particular way, and don't get me wrong, I was anxious, and there may have been a little panic and nervous and all those things. But then in the grand scheme of things, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm really going to have to learn how to go with the flow. And I learned that so fast that I was able to apply that to everything I did on that trip.
Yes.
But in the moment, it was a different version of the story. And if you're only repeating that negative version of the story, trying to get some excitement and some drama, you're living that version, and you're not looking at what it means in the big picture.
Yeah. My favorite quote is, "At the illusion of disaster is the opportunity for the miracle." And that's a quote from me. That's a Sunni quote.
I love it, Sunni.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Because like you said, if you stay focused on instant replaying, oh my God, this is happening, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, Chicken Little, the sky is falling, oh my God. And if you say, okay, this looks like it could be a disaster. The end, what I learned to do in this book, in this journey, was to say, okay, this is making me scared right now. This could be a really bad situation, but what I want is to look like this and to be like this and to end up a miraculous experience like when somebody was following me. It was nighttime. It was dark. I didn't have a hotel room yet. I was in Monte Carlo, and Monte Carlo is built on the side of a mountain. So all these little paths and sidewalks go switchback. They're switchback all the way up the mountain. And I had left my suitcase at the train station at the top of the hill. And I had been down at the casino just looking, not doing anything, but I knew I had to get back up to the top of the hill to get my suitcase and to find a place to sleep. And it was now dusk. And so I'm walking alone, and all of a sudden I hear these heavy footsteps behind me approaching closer and closer, like he was speeding up. If I would speed up, it seemed like he sped up. You get this thing in your mind. And so that was a time where I went, uh-oh, it's almost dark, and I'm walking and there are bushes, and uh-oh, I'm scared. Okay, God, I need an angel. Right now, I need an angel. The most important thing is that I get up to the top of this hill, and I need support and make this turn around. And so, I said the prayer. Well, then you have to believe the prayer that something could happen.
Yes.
And so I turned right around to this guy, faced him, and said, "La train." Now, I don't speak any French, but I thought "la train" sounded like train. I had no clue if it was right. And he pointed up, that I had to keep going up the hill. And then I pointed to my mouth, like I wanted something to eat. And so he said, he waved his hand, and he said, oui, and said the word for food or something. And so we went up the hill a ways, and there was a little coffee shop there, and we sat down and we had some coffee. If he had been going after me, it totally shifted at the moment. Right. Because it's very possible he thought, oh, she's going to engage with me. And we can talk, and maybe I can have her anyway in seduction. I don't know what he thought.
Exactly.
But once we got up to the restaurant, and I had some coffee with him and stuff, and then I asked the man at the coffee shop where there was a bed and breakfast, and he told me that that if I went out the back entrance, there was a bed and breakfast. And so what I did was go out the back entrance, left the guy sitting in front, went into the bed and breakfast, booked, and then it turned out that they could send somebody to go get my suitcase.
Perfect.
Yes.
But again, you were creating a situation that kept you safe.
Yes. And I had to stay in my power. I had to be confident enough that I had asked for the result that I wanted. And then I went back into my power instead of being afraid, turned right around and looked him in the eye and told him what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And he became an ally instead of something to be afraid of. And still I escaped because I still wasn't sure. But I was in my power.
Well, and the other thing I want to make sure that everybody continues to hear, because it's a recurring theme, is trust your intuition.
Yes.
Even if you don't speak the language, trust your intuition, and if your intuition proves you wrong, now you're going to file that away and you'll use that the next time you're in a situation. But more often than not, our intuition is on target.
Yes.
Very good. Well, let's talk about a couple of the other adventures where you're manifesting, because what I saw in the book, and gosh, listeners, I'm not really trying to even do a book review. I'm not sitting here with the book in front of me. I read it probably a month ago. But again, talking to Sunni, it just brings up some of these things, the inspired actions. And Sunni, you didn't go on this really casual, benign trip. You did this travel, but you manifested a lot throughout that, especially during tough times. Do you have a couple examples you want to share?
Well, sure. First, you need to know that I sold my house. I liquidated all my assets in the United States because I could no longer ballroom dance. So I got rid of all of those clothes. I still wear flat shoes. I can't wear high heels anymore. And so my life changed in a lot of ways. And I even said to my husband, I said, I have to go to Europe. I don't know how to explain this to you. I don't know how to, I said, you're a perfectly wonderful man. We have a really decent relationship in marriage, but I knew things were changing for him. He was going through, the 40 something, the men go through, and he was really depressed and really stuck, and you got to shake it up sometimes. And he said, well, if you go to Europe and we're still married, you're not going to have the same kind of experiences if you're single. And I said, well, okay. I said, well, when I come back, can we get married again? I mean, it was really good, and we really discussed it. So we went and we got a lawyer and paid him $350, and he did the divorce. So we didn't waste $10,000 on a damn divorce. You can go to pro se. Anybody can go to pro se and still get a divorce for, I think, $350 or $500, and they'll do it all for you. And it's easy. These people get in these battles because I wanted nothing from him. I already had a house when I married him. So I sold my house. I had $30,000 left. So I said to my banker, wire me $1,000 a month to the Wells Fargo Bank in London. So that was my base, and I went in and out of London. There was no cell phones. There was no computers then. This was in the 80s. There were, I was flying by the seat of my pants on $1,000 a month. And yet in the 80s, I was between 83 and 87, you could get bed and breakfast for $20 or $25 a night.
Sure.
They weren't close to the rail station or the tube in London, but I got lots of exercise. I did a lot of walking, and I certainly learned how to take buses. So I had $1,000 a month. I only used a credit card if it was, like to book a plane fare or something like that. And then I had to be prepared to pay it off right away because I didn't have a regular address. I had to pay it through my bank. So I had a very limited budget. My food for each day was $10. That was my budget. So I stopped at greengrocers and bought apples and pears, and I stopped at little bakeries and bought a little quiche in the morning, for $1 and a cup of coffee. And it was very simple and just living by the seat of my pants. So it wasn't fancy hotels. It wasn't first class, although I certainly have traveled that way in my life at other times, but since then. So it was minimal. However, very amazing things happened. It had been raining in London for 10 days straight. Raining, cold. It was kind of midwinter, March, and it was just, 36 to 42 degrees and raining. Just the streets were gray, the buildings were gray, the people were whinging and whining, and the skies were always full of water. And I just said, listen, God, get me out of here. I need sunshine. This was every single morning I'd write a note to God about what I needed for that day. When you talk about manifestation, it was getting in touch with either what I emotionally needed that day, or it was getting in touch with just simple things each day that could make my life better. And so I said, I need sunshine. I need salt water. I need to be in the ocean. I need to be swimming. I want fun people and interesting food. And I had $250 left to my name that month. And there were still 2 weeks left to that month.
Wow.
So I had blown through $750 and I only had $250 left. So I say, okay, and it's got to happen soon because I got to get out of here. I was dying. And so I got, miracles, God feeds the birds, but he doesn't drop it in their nest. You have to get up. So I took my shower, got dressed, went out for, I was just going to go to my little local bakery and buy my quiche and coffee. And on the way there, I thought, well, I need to talk to somebody in travel. So I saw this little travel place and I walked in because that's before they were booking things on the internet. I walked in and he was on the phone with somebody and I sat down and was looking at travel brochures. And when he got off, he said, how can I help you? And I said, how fast can you get me someplace hot and sunny and, on the ocean and I've only got $200 because I wasn't going to give him all my money. And he said, well, it's really interesting because I was just on the phone with this woman who has to cancel her trip because she's in the hospital. And it was a $2,500 prepaid trip. She's going to have to forfeit it if you give me the $200. And if you can be on a plane by 2:00 this afternoon, I will get you on it. And I handed him my $200 and he got me on the plane. It was all inclusive, all my food, right on the ocean in Mallorca, Spain. He said, you're going? I said, where am I going? He said, Mallorca. I said, where's that? He said, it's an island off the coast of Spain. And it's all inclusive, all your food, your hotel. I had a hotel room overlooking the ocean. I was the only one in the hotel room. It wasn't a hostel. And on that trip, there were people from all over the world. So people that I met on that trip, by the end of 2 weeks, I was invited to Italy. I was invited to Sweden. I was invited, I had invitations from all over the place. And when I got there, I had said that I wanted interesting food. So when I got there, it turns out that when you go to these places, like the whole hotel that I was staying in was British people.
Okay.
The hotel next to me was Swedish people. The hotel next to that was all people from Denmark. So
they
here
do
I am.
congregate. They do congregate.
Yes.
Like they find their favorites, and that's where. Yes, it is fascinating that way.
So I'm in this hotel, and it's all British food, and I'm like, oh no, I asked for interesting food. So I got to figure out how to create this. So what I did that at the end of that day, I spent the day in the ocean, and then I sat down and I went, I want to meet really high quality, interesting people, local people who can take me to local places and show me the island and somebody who has a yacht. And so I decided, or I was given the message, I don't know, that there was a 5-star hotel in Palma de Mallorca, which was the capital on that island. I was off in a village that was all tourists.
Okay.
And that if I dressed myself up, there was ballroom dancing there that night. I was told this, I don't know. I think I asked at the front desk if there was a 5-star hotel or what's the best hotel on the island. And he told me, and there was ballroom dancing. So it's a really fascinating story that I could talk for an hour on. But
I bet.
Anyway, I got myself dressed. I figured out how to take the bus from where I was downtown and walked up. I heard the music. When I got off the bus, I heard the music. And I knew it was at the top of the hill. There were all these bushes. And I started... I saw a policeman, and I said, la música, ¿dónde está? I know a little Spanish.
Right.
And he showed me there was this little grown over the leaves and vines were all grown over this little staircase. And I get to the top of the staircase, and there is this fabulous outdoor ballroom with a 15-piece orchestra and a huge marble floor and all these linen-covered tablecloths. And it's gorgeous. It's like, oh my God, I just walked into heaven. And so I was early. It was only 9:00, and they don't go out until 10 or 11. So
right.
I'm the only person. The maitre d' said, solamente? And I said, sí, solamente. And so he sat me down, and I was alone at this table. And then within 15 minutes, 6 very elegant gentlemen walk in, and he sits them at the table next to me. And they didn't have women with them. It turns out that, and they all spoke English. It turns out one was a lawyer. One was the head of like our Performing Arts Center in Milwaukee.
Okay.
He was the head of the Performing Arts Center. Another one was a real estate businessman who had a huge yacht. And so all 6 of these men ended up asking me out for different days of the week. And so I had my day on the yacht. I had my day at an event at the Performing Arts Center. And then he took me out to flamenco dancers in the evening. From that night, my whole week was booked up. And I had a fabulous time, and I didn't even spend the rest of the $50. I think I spent another $10 the whole time I was there.
Well, so one of the things that I wanted to mention about the budget is you were not going out to be on this extravagant,
no.
Like you weren't going I mean, it's not saying that you weren't going to have extravagant or elaborate experiences, but I think the budget and the plan that you put in place was more about something that was sustainable.
Yeah.
So did you know that you were going to be gone for a while?
Well, I knew that I was going to be gone until my money was gone, because actually what I did is I traveled until I had only $500 left to my name, and that was enough for a one-way ticket back to the United States, if you bought it on the right day. And I got back to the United States with no money and started over.
That's pretty incredible. Now, again, this is really just the tip of the iceberg of some of your journeys and your experiences. And I'm going to just, the experiences word is not quite the right word to capture some of the adventures for sure.
Total cosmic toboggan adventures.
So how would you describe the influence that whole adventure, that whole trip, that series until you came home on that $500 that you had left, what did that do to set the pace for what was going to come next for you?
Well, I had already learned to totally trust that whatever I decide I want to be experiencing in my mind would be taken care of, would be provided. I had totally learned to trust. I had gone on a fire walk. This was a total trust walk. It was me and God every single day. I wrote in my diary every single day about what I needed next, or what I wanted, or what I got. So I saw the manifestation day by day. It totally shifted all of my belief systems. And then near the end of my stay there, after about 1.5 years of traveling, I knew that my money was getting lower. And I said to God, okay, I want to know what you want me to do for the rest of my life. I already have a master's degree in psychology, but I did some practicum, and I know I don't want to be a psychologist. I'm way too positive. I don't want to listen to people who need drugs and are whining and complaining and depressed. I'm too positive. So there's got to be something else I can do with this. And I said, so tell me what you want me to do. Show me something that that is helpful to humanity, because that's how I'm motivated, is helping humanity, that will support me the rest of my life, that will keep me in joy all the rest of my life, that I will love doing, and that is easy for me, that takes all of my skills and talents, and it's very easy for me to do. And so I made that prayer in the morning and got up, got dressed, stopped at a little restaurant at noon for lunch. I was sitting alone in the restaurant, and the maitre d' brought 4 people over, sat them next to me, not the other side of the restaurant, not in front of the window, next to me, and they were talking about this life coaching program that they had just recently started, and that they were training these coaches, and they were talking about all the kinds of books that I read, that I love. I was vibrating. I was just like, oh my God, this is an answer to my prayer. These people are right on my wavelength. I have to talk to them. So it's really interesting. After I finished my lunch and they were finished with theirs, I said, I'm sorry, I just have to introduce myself. I read all the same books you're talking about. I believe the same things. I have to talk to you about what it is that you're doing. And it turned out that the woman who had her back to me was a woman that I had met at a social event the very first week that I had moved to London. And she went, oh my God, Sunni. And, it was pretty interesting. And so we got talking, and sure enough, it was this coaching program. Nobody was doing coaching in the United States yet. I knew it was right for me. I became a client, but I had barely any money left at that time.
Right.
So I had called my dad that morning and said, Dad, I'm down to my last $500. I might come home. And I had never, ever asked my family for any money, not even $5, because they would have said, why don't you get a regular job? I always liked doing my own thing. And so I didn't ask him for any money, but I knew that I had enough to get home. And he said, and so I called him the next day and I said, I have to stay a few more months. I found something I have to do. And he said, well, there's some mail here for you. Should I open it? And I said, yeah, open it. And it turned out there was a $5,000 check. There had been some money that I had loaned to somebody, 15 years before. I never thought I'd ever see it again. And there it was, exactly when I needed it. So I stayed in London for another 1.5 years and trained to do the life coaching that I have now done for 30 years. and it has fulfilled my life, thrilled my life, helped, I've had over 1,500 private clients. I do 8 sessions with people, and they're off and running. We take a look at all 8 areas of their lives, and they begin to learn how to integrate these same beliefs. I have them reading all the same kind of books that I read, so that their minds begin to open up, and they totally start manifesting in the 8 sessions, so that by the time we're done with 8 sessions, they're off and running, and their life has already changed in huge ways to more joy, ease, and abundance. So it's pretty thrilling.
That's awesome. So you did just allude to the coaching, and Sunny, I can't believe how fast our time has gone, because again, you're such an engaging storyteller. I want to make sure that people know where to find you, how to connect with you, and how they might even get a chance to come hear you speak, or certainly make sure you share about your book.
Okay, thank you. My website is www.Sunni Boehme, exactly my name, SUNNI, B as in boy, OEHME.com. I often speak at the Spiritual Living of Greater Milwaukee Center on Sunday mornings. Not always, but I'm always there at 10:45. They meet on the corner of 84th and Cold Spring. No, they don't meet on the corner. They meet in the church there. And the church is called King of Glory, but we share that building with the King of Glory people. So it's the Spiritual Living of Greater Milwaukee, and they also have a website. I think it's .org. Then I often travel around the country, do seminars at other churches and women's programs. I do book signings. I'm happy to come to women's groups. If you have a book group, I'm happy to bring photos and photo albums and PowerPoint. If you have more than 100 people and you have a screen, I'll bring a whole PowerPoint and take you on adventures with me and show you all the pictures. And I'm thrilled to do that. I enjoy it so much. So there's plenty of places to get a hold of me. Also with my coaching, I do an introductory session for $20, 1 hour. Call me at 414-217-4052, and I'll send you some questions, and we could do a jump start on how could your life get better very quickly.
That is amazing. Sunny, like I said, I really hope that people will check you out on Amazon as well, and check out Mirror Mirror, and the follow-up book, which I have not checked out yet, which is
Diary of a Turkish Wedding. In one of the last chapters in Mirror Mirror, I met this fabulous, exciting, gorgeous Turkish man in London. He looked like Pierce Brosnan or Tony Curtis, whatever age range you're in. And I fell madly in love with him. Didn't see him. I dated him for a while, but then didn't see him again for 15 years. We reconnected after 15 years, and I married him and ended up living in a fundamentalist Muslim village in Turkey where not one single woman spoke a word of English, and they weren't allowed to watch TV because the men didn't want them to know that there was any other way in the world than, and this was a little village of only 22 homes. So here for years, I've been teaching empowerment, and especially women's empowerment, and I am living in a place where there is no power. These women are totally disempowered, and I can't say a word to any of them. I have to shut up and be the observer. So it taught me a huge lesson, and that's why I wrote the book about it. And there's so much going on in the world now about Islam and Muslims, and we're fed a lot of baloney, and most of them just want peace and equality and harmony, just like we do. But then, of course, there's always the fringe lunatics on every side of every religion. There's always fringe lunatics. Absolutely. And those are the ones we hear about. So I'm happy to tell the story and to help people to understand.
Especially from the inside, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Sunny, thank you so much for taking the time to be my guest today and share your story. And I haven't shared with you, you are going on as my special episode for my 50th episode.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you.
So I'm very excited to bring that to everyone and to continue to share the stories of solo travelers. And I think what we're evidencing is that the impact of that is very long lasting.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Thanks again, Sunny.
Thank you for what you do in the world, Jennifer.
Wasn't it great to hear the stories that Sunny shared with us today? I love the idea of manifesting what you want and what you need through the power of positive thinking and being very clear and intentional. I hope you take that with you and you consider how you can frame your stories of travel to be reflective of what you are trying to achieve rather than what you don't want to attract. Now, if you love these stories and want to help support Go Solo Live, you can do that by making a small financial contribution to the show at www.patreon.com/Go Solo Live. That's Patreon. Now, we're at the end of today's episode, but to carry on the conversation, join us on Facebook at Transform Via Travel. And if you're interested in being a guest on a future episode, send me an email at jennifer@transformviatravel.com. And until next time, remember, go solo, not alone. Thanks again.